Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Today was extremely busy with the Harbaugh news. And then, of course, right as I'm starting to gain my footing back, Dante Moore decides abruptly that he's announcing his draft decision on ESPN. That was awfully random. I know that we're going to really dig into this today, but why did we get this announcement on a Zoom call on ESPN? It seemed a little odd. I don't know why he could have just posted a graphic, but it had to have a set time on it. I don't know. Good for Oregon that he's coming back, but that threw me.
Why didn't you do it on CBS, the Big Ten's affiliate?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
The first question that I asked, you keep talking about this playoff expansion and the TV revenue for that and everything. Why didn't you go to CBS? Why didn't you go to Fox?
I really do wonder why it went down that way, that they went to ESPN for the announcement.
Because no one watches FS1. Other than Cowherd. Cowherd is the only show on there that gets that level of viewership.
So why he could have announced it on Cowherd? Definitely don't do it on CBS Sports HQ, because that would have been
right.
Small.
You got to go to ESPN. That's not Oregon's affiliate.
I wonder. They have to be pissed about that. CBS and Fox have to be. They have. Well, there's nothing that they're going to do. But if you're just going to complain to a partner of yours for not respecting your relationship, I would think that absolutely would warrant a complaint.
Here's where I think this is going to go. They're going to start doing TV revenue deals with individual players.
Well, so I wonder, was there some sort of a
Caitlin Clark? Remember Fox? Well, no, remember Fox? You don't remember this whole deal with Fox trying to do an individual TV revenue deal with Caitlin Clark?
I vaguely remember it.
Go Google it. They almost did a TV revenue deal with her that would have paid her 4 times her WNBA salary. 4 times. It's coming. After today, that's coming.
Unless we collectively bargain, which
they're not going to. Why would the players do that? You got to get the players union. You got to get a players union, and then they have to agree. Why would they do that?
Collective bargaining is probably the biggest hurdle that I've said 100 times over that needs to happen. But I think that could be one of the straws that break it. If there is somebody who is just that commands a conversation so much and also wants to be in the spotlight, that does sign some sort of a special deal where maybe they have a weekly appearance, whatever it might be, whatever it might tell, they've got a documentary that follows just them around with a big network. I would think that would probably push forward a lawyer or somebody to want to put together some sort of a union for college football and college athletics in general, because it's not unfair, but a lot of guys are missing out on opportunities if all the money is getting funneled to specific players.
Agreed. Speaking of Dante Moore, let's just stick there. Everyone do us a favor, though, by hitting like and share to all those Facebook pages and all that. Subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate y'all doing that. Joe, Dante Moore is going to be staying at the University of Oregon. He makes the announcement today. This coming off the heels of you and I having a discussion. I know I was very vocal about it last night when we were talking about Dylan Raiola. We got into the conversation of Dante Moore. I think the best decision that he's made in his college career came today. He's not ready. I keep seeing NFL people constantly push to me. I say me, but constantly push that he's a first-round pick. No, he's not. He's not ready. Does he have the traits to be a first-round pick? Yes. Does he have the decision-making to be a first-round pick right now? No. And the turnovers justify that. Joe, he had 17 turnovers this year. 17. He had 7 lost fumbles. He had 10 interceptions. He's not ready. Now, he had 32 touchdowns. You can see the God-given ability. But the God's honest truth is that he's not ready in all of this. He threw 10 interceptions this season, and we thought he was ready. He's not ready. I say that, and it's going to come off in a negative light. This is so awesome for him that a young man can make a decision to come back to the University of Oregon, develop for another year, and then go. Screw next year's class. Screw it. You're going to be one of the top guys in there anyway. So what if you Bo Nix yourself and you fall to 15 to a really good organization? That's probably the best thing that could happen to you. Like you fall like Patrick Mahomes to 15 and you go to Kansas City. If that's the worst thing that's going to happen to me, so be it. Oh, the money's the money. Why making it up at Oregon? And I'm sure he's going to walk out there with a Nike deal when he's going into the NFL himself because of what he just did. I think it's the best decision that he could have made here, and him going back and developing for another year is going to do nothing but benefit him in the future.
Yeah, that's the biggest part with this. And I think that the craziest layer to this whole quarterback situation is that they, without a doubt, have the best quarterback room in college football. They have the best quarterback situation in college football. Dante Moore comes back, as we discussed. It was better for him to get another year to start. The list of quarterbacks that have entered the NFL draft that had under 20 starts in their college careers, it's not good. A lot of those guys have not played well. And the big reason why is that NFL teams are impatient with those guys learning. It is a more difficult process and learning curve of adjusting to NFL play. And then on top of that, trying to get the necessary reps in order to be prepared to take the bullets that is an NFL game. As you said here, his decision-making was inconsistent. It was poor at times. Him playing for one more year is what is best for his development. Him going second overall to the Jets, or if somebody else traded up, unless it was the Steelers, none of those teams have the environment that would have been able to foster his growth. None of them. Absolutely none of them. And the most amazing aspect of all of this is that he makes a mature decision to realize what helps his longevity. Then you have Dylan Raiola making a mature decision to sit for a year, just like Dante Moore did. He could then, in a year, be there for 2 seasons as Oregon's starting quarterback and then jump to the NFL. This is, to a degree, unprecedented. And I don't know if that we'll ever see anything like this. And it kind of goes to show where things are trending in college football with guys taking money and deciding to work on their development instead of rushing the process.
I got to be blunt with you. I think college baseball is showing college football a couple of things. It's going to sound a little wild, but hear me out. Look at how many dudes in college baseball are going back because of the reduction in minor league baseball. Experience matters. How old is Indiana, by the way? Collectively age as a team.
I think like 23, over 23 years old or something like that.
That is nuts. That is nuts. All right. We've seen this in some other sports. Players going back 1-2 years, not as much in basketball, but unless you're a top 10 pick, those guys in college baseball are going back because college athletics and development are becoming a big deal. How many 4th and 5th year quarterbacks are then going? Name the last time a 3rd year quarterback, you could say Caleb Williams, okay, which I mean, he's maybe one of many, but what did he really do as of right now? You have one quarterback. Majority of these guys are staying multiple years. The AFC leader in Division I seed is a guy who stayed in college for how long? 5 years.
5 years?
No,
wait, 6
years. Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
Jane Daniels, 4 years. For Mendoza, this is his what, 4th year?
This is his 4th year.
4th year. He wins a Heisman. So Baker Mayfield, 4 years. Jalen Hurts, 4 years. Patrick Mahomes. You look at this situation, it is a smart decision by everybody. You going to the Jets would have never made sense. It doesn't make sense. So, and here's another truth. He's not ready. Bottom line, he's just not ready. He's got to be better with his decision-making. But what a massive win for Oregon. God, what a win. You don't have to rush Raiola back out of an injury. You got a quarterback that you know is probably going to be a top 5 pick or top 10 pick when he leaves. He gets to come back and develop, and then your young offense, which is what you had with a true freshman wide receiver and DK Moore that got hurt, another true freshman wide receiver. Joe, you're bringing back a lot of pieces, and you got the cohesiveness with the guys around you and Dante Moore and those young receivers. It is just a massive win for Oregon because you get to use those young pieces that will develop along with your quarterback that needs to develop and then making a push that you want to make. It's just an overall smart move. And I got to be real with you. I've seen a lot of people talk about his traits. I get the traits. The decision-making's not all there yet, and that's okay. Coming back is the most mature decision that he could have done. And here's another thing. He's 20 years old.
Yeah, he's young. He's very young.
He's 20 years old. So, like, Joe, if he were to go in the draft right now and he goes out with some of his teammates, he can't drink at a bar. So when they went, I don't know.
Let's see if I can find it.
Dante Moore,
May 24th. So he would be turning 21 right after he gets drafted, which goes to show how young he is.
No, come back, then go. Get another. This is the smartest decision he could have made. And for Oregon and Dan Lanning, with having both coordinators out the door, Will Stein out the door, and having stability at quarterback is arguably the best thing that could happen to you too as a coaching for a coaching staff.
Right. It makes things a lot easier for whoever takes over, that there's no feeling out with a new system and also a new quarterback if Dylan Raiola was taking over. Now, I think that Raiola is talented enough that he would have been an elevator for the offense. They would have played really well with all the receivers coming back. But I'll tell you what, this does, I think, really signal a moment here for Dan Lanning. You got to this is put up or shut up time. You've got Dante Moore coming back after having a really solid year, but needing to take a step forward. You've got the transition of your coordinators leaving. You have been criticized, and I was one of the people who criticized him for your performance in the playoff. You now have the best opportunity with an experienced guy who's in year 2 as a starter, with both of your star receivers coming back. And I don't know if maybe some of these other guys on the defensive side of the ball, I don't believe Mateo Uyunglele has made an announcement on if he's declaring, but you should have a roster that will be one of the best in college football. And it's just like what we talked about here with Sark. You can't fall short again with this. I'm not saying he's got to win a national championship, but you got to get there. You got to get to a national title. And I would hope that the path is harder, that there's no JMU and Texas Tech in their path of two teams that Texas Tech obviously belonged there, but a team that wasn't really ready for the moment. I need to see how they're going to step up to this opportunity ahead of them. Dan Lanning cannot fall short once again.
We're just going to
disagree with that? You disagree with that?
Yeah, when you're losing to the national champion or national runner-up every year, yes, I do.
Okay, but I think that that's an underperformance, though. The amount of money that
he just won the Big Ten last
year. He won the Big Ten last year and they got trounced by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Like, they just spent a ridiculous amount of money on 2 quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks.
So what if they're spending the money on ridiculous quarterbacks?
You're funneling resources to produce success. You have some of the biggest financial commitment out of any university.
And Ryan Day got skull drug for how long before he got there?
Ryan Day wasn't getting funneled this type of money, though. Ryan Day has a financial support.
You know what he had? You know what he had? He had arguably one of the best NFL quarterbacks and got his shit kicked in. Mario Cristobal had one of the best quarterbacks and lost to a 6-6 Auburn, and he's now getting to a national title. How long did it take Mario?
Just because it took those coaches longer does not mean that it needs to take Dan Lanning as long. I argue that Dan Lanning has had more financial support, not to mention the fact that Ryan Day and Mario Cristobal, their growth as coaches were at the very beginning of the NIL era, and they were head coaches before the NIL era. So they're under lack of success.
You're going to have to give him grace.
It's not like I'm saying he's fraudulent. I am not trying to imply that Dan Lanning is fraudulent.
It comes off that you're saying that but when you say he needs to put up or shut up, you're giving a definitive statement of that he needs to shut up. Okay, so the
word I'm saying here is I'm not literally saying that he is fraudulent. That never came out of my mouth. I know, but when you have this much of a commitment from one of the richest public donors, one of the biggest brands in sports backing you, and you haven't been able to get to a national championship, you are now positioned with a guy who would have been the second overall pick deciding to come back. If you can't get to the national championship with that, let alone win it, I think that is a bit concerning.
Dante Moore would not have been the second overall pick.
Yes, he would have. He would have.
No, he wouldn't have been.
He would have been the second overall. This is a very desperate quarterback. This absolutely
just because they're desperate doesn't mean he's a second overall pick.
That happens all the time. Mitch Trubisky was the second overall pick when he came out.
Sure, and Aaron Rodgers got passed over by almost every team.
That doesn't have anything to do with the context of the
Joe.
draft.
You're saying because they're spending money, because he's losing to the national champion, that he's got to put up or shut up. I don't disagree that having a potential top 5 pick, that you got to do better than what you've done. However, he just got to the Final Four.
He beat JMU in a Texas Tech team that wasn't ready for the CFP. They weren't. Did you think that they were challenged getting to – they got dominated.
You can't back that up. You can't backtrack that now. Because everybody was saying that Texas Tech had the defense and the team because they had been dominating everybody, that they were a really, really good team, and then they blanked them.
I'm not. Wait.
You can't do that now. You can't walk that statement back now.
Those are two completely separate talking points. Those are completely separate talking points. We're talking about who Texas Tech was in terms of what they earned to get there. I'm not relitigating that discussion with you. The game happened, and we watched the game. Dante Moore, the Oregon offense was clunky. It didn't play its best game against Texas Tech, and they still won. And then they got smoked. They didn't get beat. They got smoked. We're not talking about losing to the eventual national champion. We're talking about getting smoked twice to the eventual national champion. That to me is...
Has Miami and Indiana played yet?
Okay. Sorry, I misspoke there. But that has nothing to do with my point. That has nothing. I don't mean to commit to
Miami
that.
Miami fans, y'all hear this, man? Y'all hear this, man?
No. Don't deflect from what I'm talking about. I would think that you would
DeLeone, the Miami hater.
I would think that you would want Dan Lanning to be held a little bit more accountable for the hype that he's gotten and the lack of full success.
I don't completely disagree with what you're saying. However, I can also give grace when Evan Stewart's not there, DeCorian Moore's not there, and a fourth-string wide receiver is a true freshman has to come in and be your number one guy. You can't.
But this is my point, though. He has all of that coming back. You underperform with that. That, to me, is disappointing. That's a disappointment. If you don't win a national championship with all of this coming back, that's disappointing.
Let's move on here. Everyone do us a favor, hit the like and share all those. I just disagree with it. But look, Dante Moore returning is a massive deal, and it's going to be a big deal for them. Every Ruffino Joe show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Download the FD Sportsbook app today. Apple phone, iPhones, or you're on Android, download the FD Sportsbook app. Place all those bets. You got a college football national championship on Monday. Playoffs are this weekend in the NFL. You can place those bets with our good friends over at FanDuel. For any thoughts, questions, concerns, go to FanDuel.com/RG for more details. Joe, let's move on to this. There was an interesting story that came out from Chris Love on 3 in reference to Ty Simpson. There have been rumors that started from KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio. Those guys do a really good job, but came out and said that LSU was the team that was trying to, I guess, tamper with Ty Simpson. But Ty Simpson, a lot of people thought that he could take his name out of the draft, pull a Cam Ward, that he, depending on what he was going to do, he could go to multiple schools. Chris Lowe does an interview with Ty Simpson in which he quotes that Miami, Tennessee, and Ole Miss were the three teams that went after him after he announced his name into the NFL draft. Your thoughts on this and tampering much?
Okay, you and I have gotten into many debates about tampering. Tampering doesn't exist. It just doesn't. It happens, but it exists, but it doesn't. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing it.
When people were bootlegging back in the early 19,000s, just because it was illegal then, did it make it right if it was illegal?
Well, drinking alcohol is legal now.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
I think it's a bad example. So, I just don't want to talk about tampering because it is a very tiring.
It was tampering. You should have just said yes. It was tampering and moved on.
I think that is the least important aspect of this entire conversation.
Okay, well then, what do you think the biggest aspect is?
The biggest aspect is I think that Ty Simpson should have taken the money and gone to Miami. I think that he should have. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he was offered $6.5 million. I'm not saying that Ty Simpson, oh my God, that's life-changing money. Why didn't you take it? He's about to make a ton of money in the NFL. It has nothing to do with the money. And in the story, it was talked about how Nick Saban said to him, remove the money. What decision would you make regardless of what you wanted, whatever was trying to influence your decision-making? Just like we just talked about with Dante Moore, I thought that Ty Simpson has a lot of the same evaluations. A really good player who had a ton of tremendous plays for his team, a reason for Alabama's success this year. Even when they were struggling, he kept them alive. They won the Oklahoma game, as we talked about, because of the way that he played. He fought his ass off, but he's got 1 year as a starter. And at times we saw some of those issues with that lack of experience. Ty Simpson, and this is where it was put in the story that 17 of the 18 NFL teams that gave him grades, and this aligns with what was talked about on the show when I brought this up, that from what I heard that the NFL gave him pretty much entirely first-round grades. Mm-hmm. Most of these grades are probably middle to the back end of the first round. Mm-hmm. Now that Dante Moore's out of it, he still probably goes really, really early in the top 5. Because teams are desperate. But that does not mean that is best for his career. I do not think Ty Simpson is at a point in his development where he goes to the Jets, he goes to the Browns, he goes to the Cardinals, he goes to the Dolphins, that those are environments that are going to help him produce success. Unless he ended up with the Steelers, as I said before, I am a little wary about Ty Simpson as a prospect. You had a chance to go to a team that has been one of the best environments for transfer portal kids that have helped their stocks. Carson Beck helped his stock. He would have been a late day 3 pick last year, and he might be a late day 2 kid with the way that he played last game and depending on how he plays in the national championship. Blake, I don't think this kills Ty Simpson, but I think that if you were getting that much money, you should have thought about it, and you should have maybe gone to Miami.
I'm glad that he didn't, and I'm glad of his statement when he said that I am full Alabama, and I feel like I would have betrayed Alabama and everything I gave to that place if I even entertained that. I think that there comes a point in time where, do I think that you're wrong that I think he could have used another year of development? I actually agree with you there. If he was going to do it, he needed to do it at Alabama. Because I understand the loyalty in the place of you wanting to be there. Right? Like, I understand wanting to be in a situation where you've given your blood, sweat, and tears to that place. You are loyal to that place. To jump ship because they wanted to move on from you, now you could say, well, Blake Carson Beck did it, and you would not be wrong. I'm not going to fault a guy from saying, I can't betray the school that I love in a door because someone offered me a shitload of money. That makes me no better than anybody else. You know what it tells me? If I'm an NFL team, that this dude's a leader, and he's not going to run just because everything around him is chaotic and other people are throwing massive bags of cash at him. I think it's a big I don't want to say this was an indictment on Carson Beck because he was in a completely different situation with the injury and all of that. I kind of think it could be a little bit of an indictment if a kid just runs for the money. Like, as an example, and we didn't bring this up last night, and there was a reason why I did not. Jordan Seaton used a video that Colorado made for him about coming back and all that stuff for an announcement that he was leaving. Like, that just tells me that you're bag chasing. This tells me that you're not, that you think that, hey, man, I'm getting first-round grades for the NFL. I'm going to get a $20 million signing bonus, 18 at minimum. So the money, if it is about money, I'm going to make more there. Secondly, it's always been my dream to play in the NFL. Again, I fully agree with you that he needed to go back and get another year of development. That part, you're spot on with. But at the same time, I do think it's a lot of desperation being thrown at him by teams that have massive amounts of desperation. Meaning, Ole Miss, I thought you wanted Trinidad Chambliss. I thought you felt comfortable about that whole situation. Miami, I thought that you were going to be able to land Sam Levitt. In Ty Simpson's article, he says, when they missed Sam Levitt, I was calling them and they doubled their pay to $6.5 million. Tennessee has whiffed on every single quarterback in this portal haul. Every single one of them. It screams of desperation by all three of those teams, Ole Miss included, with Trinidad Chambliss. If you're Deuce Knight right now, how do you feel? How do you feel? If you're Trinidad Chambliss, how do you feel right now? And I'm being dead ass honest. How do you feel that they're talking to Ty Simpson? They're supposed to be helping you fight your legal case. By the way, throwing this out there, did you see Chris Lowe's report the other day about it wasn't Ole Miss that hired Tom Mars? It was Tom Mars that got convinced by Lane Kiffin to fight his legal battle for him. So who's watching out for Trinidad? Who's watching out for him? So you're going to tell me, and I still don't think he's going to get this probably a temporary restraining order because the new lawsuits in the state of Mississippi. You're going to grant him that because of a 1-week tonsillitis? And I get where Ole Miss is coming from with that. But Deuce Knight, hello. Joe, I've said this a couple of times. I don't know if Shannon Dawson, if he doesn't get his way, that he doesn't want Williams to be their quarterback next year. Because I know that they're throwing a lot of money at people, but they didn't really pursue Sam Levitt like that. They kind of told him hello, and then he walked out the door. I'm calling a little bit of bullshit, but like, hey, if you want to come here, we'll give you money. All right, you don't want to? See you later. Oh, we're going to give you one last shot. You want to come? No? Okay, sounds good. Tennessee's the team that whiffed on everybody. Bro, you had a sitting SEC head coach in Lane Kiffin walk off in your trap and take it over and land a commitment from Sam Levitt. Bro, do what? Josh Heupel struck out on everybody, and they were going to give him $5 million. So I bring all this up to say, number one, I like that Ty Simpson said, I am too loyal to Alabama to go. Number two, it shows how desperate teams are and were in this portal haul at quarterback. Don't you have George McIntyre was the number 2 quarterback last class? Aren't you bringing in Faze and Brandon? Like Miami, I get what Miami's going through. I mean, it's going to be a tough situation for them. But Ole Miss, you're fighting a legal case for Trinidad Chambliss. So 3 things involved in all this. I agree with you that I think Ty Simpson's not ready for the NFL. Just being blunt, I think he could have used another year. I still think he'll be fine. Number 2, the desperation around teams in all of this is glaring at most, and teams are resetting the market there. But number 3, man, it just goes to show that everybody keeps talking about players being loyal. Boy, these coaches have very short memories about the promises that they make to players too. Joe, they got Faze, Brandon, and George McIntyre. You're fighting a legal case for Trinidad Chambliss, and you're telling Deuce Knight if he's not coming, then you're our starting quarterback.
I think that's a good kind of point to bring up here because coaches have always been deceptive in the history of the sport. And just because money is out there now doesn't mean that changes. I agree with your point on the sentiment that Ty Simpson has is exactly what I do agree with. I do completely agree with his approach of saying, I want to respect Alabama and finishing my career. And part of what I understood from the piece was that he basically communicated with the staff, hey, I'm not coming back next year. I'm entering the draft. And that was when the overtures came from all these other programs that wanted him to jump in the portal, that he was making this move to the NFL, hence why he made this final decision to sign and actually submit into the NFL draft. I respect that he wanted to essentially close that door. I think that it would have maybe not been dirty, but it would have not come off great if Alabama had been put in this position where they're turning the page, they're ready to move on. Maybe they're preparing to endure what is going to be a little bit of a reloading year with a new quarterback stepping in. If they trust Mac or if they trust Russell, who knows how that's going to turn out. We talked about that in a different segment last week. To have abandoned that and then just jump to another school, yeah, that aspect of things will not look great. I don't think it necessarily, if you go to Miami, that comes off as chasing money. I think that, as I said, I think in listening to him talk about this in the piece or reading him talk about this in the piece, I think that it more so would have had to do with his foresight and his vision for growth. That's where the balance comes in. It shouldn't have anything to do with you had offered $6.5 million. You could have gotten offered $10 million. It doesn't matter. It is a circumstance where you get an extra year to grow, and it's on a team that's going to have a really good offensive line. It's going to have a really good supporting cast. You're going to have a really good receiver to throw to. I wouldn't have maybe done it for Tennessee because that doesn't
much less conference in the ACC.
Right. You would have been able to play at a very high level with less competition. I wouldn't have done it for Tennessee if that was the only team offering you, because that offense has not exactly prepared guys for the NFL. There has not been a track record for development. The same thing can be said for Ole Miss, that there's uncertainty for how things are going to work under Pete Golding. That's not a situation that I'm jumping into. But because it's Miami specifically, nothing to do with the money, I think that is the one exception to this where it would have made sense to jump there or to have gone back to Alabama for one more season.
I can't disagree with you on that. I do still think that, just to be honest, I think Fernando Mendoza is the only quarterback that deserves a first-round grade. Just being completely blunt, I don't think any other one.
Chambliss?
Well, I didn't think about him going in there. I mean, because he's coming back and he's fighting a legal battle. So if you want me to throw him in there, yes, then I would put him in there too. But considering he's trying to fight a legal case to go back to college, I don't know if you want me to put him in there or not. That's neither here nor there. But if he does go, yes, I would put Chambliss in there. With all of that being said, you can't go to Tennessee. That's one of your biggest rivals, if not the biggest rival, because Auburn's been, kapooey. I don't disagree with that. But, Joe, there's some news that just broke here. Okay, not that it's not massive, but you remember this kid, Bryson Beaver, who flew up boards in recruiting and committed to Oregon? He's going in the portal. So well, hold on. I bring that up to say we keep talking about all of these players and loyalty. All right. Pete Golding had zero loyalty. Josh Heupel had zero loyalty. Mario Cristobal, to some extent, had no loyalty either. And now look at what Oregon just did. By the way, Oregon told this Beaver kid about their plan, and that clearly changed, and they went and got Raiola. They put Longstreet in the portal, and they got shoved in a locker, if I'm just going to be honest with you. People go, oh, Dylan Raiola. Everybody keeps talking to me about players this, player that. You want to know the real truth about what these agents go through? It's that they get phone calls from coaches that I need this, I need that, I need this, and they go to their client to get in the portal so that they can go and get them. Your problem's not only with the portal, your problem or the money. The coaches keep going out there and whining about this shit, and they're a massive reason, and you're seeing this with Ty Simpson. It's a massive reason why this shit is so chaotic. They have zero loyalty. If you can help them win, they will cast you aside. That's why, Joe, when I say, and people made fun of this to some extent, why I would want my son Ben to go play for Fran Brown. Because Fran's just going to keep it a buck with you. And I can respect that. Dion, I can respect that. To some extent, Saban, I can respect that. To some Kirby, Kirby gonna just tell you like it is. He's just gonna tell you. Clark Lee, Ryan Day. But some of these other situations, Joe, like I'm looking at right now, you keep talking to me about the player. The thing that I thought about the first thing that came to my mind about this whole Ty Simpson thing was two things. Number one, I told all you sons of bitches that it wasn't Lane Kiffin going after Ty Simpson. That's number one. Number two is y'all keep talking to me about loyalty. Bullshit.
So I've got a little bit of an existential thought.
Okay.
With that, you bringing up Beaver and this whole situation. Are we approaching the point where it does not make any sense to recruit a high school recruit?
You better be really special.
Quarterback specifically.
No, well, you better be very special.
I think, and
Well,
I don't know if it ever comes to this point. Can we
think of one? Hold on. Can we think of one right now that's been at the same school?
CJ Carr, Arch Manning. CJ Carr and Arch Manning, the first two guys that come to
with
my
all
mind.
due respect, I mean, they were iffy year one, but that's two. So of the other 64,
well, but they both played really well though, and there should be top quarterbacks
fair.
going into next season.
The other 64 P4 teams, they have a transfer quarterback, is what we're pretty much thinking about. I mean, I'm sure there's another, but basically you're going in the portal every year.
Wait, I want to pull up the college football playoff rankings from this past year and do a quick.
Every one of them.
Georgia is one of them.
Okay.
Ohio State is one of them. Texas A&M.
No, it's not. Ohio State is not one of them.
Technically, yeah, he came from Alabama. Texas A&M is technically one of them. Alabama could be next year if Keelan Russell starts.
Well, no, Alabama would be because Ty Simpson stayed.
No, but I'm saying that for going into next year. I'm just kind of like mapping it that way. If Keelan Russell stays, Miami was not. BYU was a team that had a kid that stayed, but he was a true freshman. Yeah, as I'm kind of looking through this, to not sit here and read off every single school, with the exceptions of some true freshmen, most of the teams in the top 25 brought in a transfer portal kid. So I say this to say, I have no idea if it comes to this point. Maybe contracts end up getting structured differently to the degree that it affects this process. If I am a 5-star kid or a high 4-star kid, I am committing and I'm playing for a G5 program. And that is where this turns into a feeder system. Go get on the field. Go get on the field and play. Go. You might not get paid that much money, but why go somewhere? And then theoretically, a lot of times with these coaches, if they're not satisfied and they feel they need to bring a kid in, they don't think that you're ready to go next year, they might cut your NIL payments. They might cut how much money you're making. This is part of the lack of control and the lack of regulation that comes with all of this, is that you can just cut a kid's pay and say, well, yeah, we don't have the money to pay you right now. We got to put it elsewhere. I do wonder if it does start to come towards that, where these smaller programs get kids that come and play for them. They start for 2 years. They get 2 years worth of starts under their belt, and then they get the $6 million offer and they transfer, because it's far more valuable seemingly to be the kid who plays on the field, gets on the field, and then gets an offer for a team that's competing for a national title.
You got to give me just a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I do. Okay. Hopefully everything is all good with whatever Blake's got going on. We'll get to the super chat while we're waiting for Blake to come back. I saw this earlier from Shaquan 6525. People are talking like Miami has no shot. I agree. I think Indiana wins, but Miami just has to play clean for 4 quarters and could win this thing. Miami has 100% been tested more during this playoff run. Well, if you listen to yesterday's segment that we did on the show, and you also watch the preview that we did, our opinions on the show align completely with that. I don't think that very many media members have been pushing this belief that Miami's cooked and they have zero chance of winning. I have not tuned into a lot of other networks' podcasts. I usually like to listen around at Pates and Cover 3 and Ari and Andy. I like to listen to some of those other shows to see what other people are saying. I haven't done that leading up to the national championship. I don't think that there's that sentiment that Indiana is going to just straight up get smoked. I don't think that Miami is going to straight up get smoked by Indiana. I think that the media believes and respects what Miami did along the lines of scrimmage. And the real ball knowers were the ones who called out going into the Ohio State game and said, well, this game is a large spread going into it by the books. It does not mean that Miami is going to get worked. And I said on this show, I thought that Miami was going to put up a fight at the very, very least. They ended up getting that win. I think the path that Miami has had has been challenging enough, and the right challenges that has prepared them for this moment. And I keep coming back to, I really, really do believe that one of the most overlooked aspects of this, for it to be a blowout, you would need a cataclysmic collapse from Carson Beck. You would need him to play really, really poorly with like multiple turnovers that set up Indiana with short fields. Neither of these teams move particularly fast on either side of the ball. They don't. This isn't Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss could score in 2 minutes or less if they needed to because of how they play and the tempo that they play with. Miami runs the ball really freaking slowly. Indiana also not as sluggish, but also is a team that moves the ball pretty slowly as well. So for this game to be a blowout, I agree with you, Shaquan. I think that this game is probably going to end up being pretty tight.
Shaquan, what's happening? Frequent AYS.
I got to the
chats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is everything all good?
Chaos. Always.
Okay.
All right, let's move along here. Joe, it came out today that there is a chance that the college football playoff is going to expand yet again. Discussions going on amongst the Big Ten and the SEC really of expanding the playoff to 16 teams, and there being a provision that if they agree to a 16-team playoff, that after 3 years, the Big Ten wants there to go to 24, even if there is not an automatic qualifier. What are your thoughts about the expanded playoff and Tony Petitti and now Greg Sankey being in yet again another death match about an expanded playoff, which, by the way, no one is asking for?
No one's asking for it. That is the biggest key with this. Before I deliver my take, I want to point out one thing that caught my attention that was brought up in this. This is a quote from the article from Brandon Marcello. With just one automatic qualifier, this is one of the models that they apparently pitched but have not formally pitched. Just one automatic qualifier reserved for the highest ranked group of 6 champion, with the remaining 23 seeded strictly by CFP rankings. So that effectively means that all 23 teams would just be in there based on where they're ranked. There's no automatic qualifiers. That removes that from it. I am not bringing that up to say that I think that is a good idea. I'm bringing that up to say is, why are you willing to do it in this ridiculous monstrosity of a 24-team playoff, but you're not willing to do it? And the Big Ten's the ones who brought this idea up. Why are you not willing to do it in the 16-team? Why are you putting up this gigantic fight over the stupid massive expansion or having all these automatic qualifiers? Like, the expansion plans have all been terrible. They have all been awful. None of them are going to produce a good college football playoff. Blake, here's one thing that I don't think enough people have discussed. The 12-team playoff was perfect this year. It was not perfect because of the 2 G5 teams that got in, because that is a whole separate issue. We're not going to rediscuss that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the competition was tight. It was entertaining. It was compelling. Some of the games were blowouts. It's going to happen in a playoff setting. The Steelers got blown out by the Texans. Nobody's saying that the Steelers didn't belong in the NFL playoffs. The fact that we had all of those really good games, the amount of good games this year more than last year, shows that we're trending in the right direction with a 12-team field. But the other layer that I think is really, really key with all this, college football as a discussion topic in the sports world has been the biggest it's ever been. It has not gotten this much attention. I think that the results of the growth of this show are an example of that. One of the most highly discussed incidents was the Miami, Notre Dame, Texas, Vanderbilt race for the final spot in the CFP. As much as fans were upset and said that the system was flawed, it created commentary. The most valuable thing outside of the games on the field is attention and commentary.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it was talked about as detailed as we did on this show and on other shows shows that it was the right setting. You put 24 teams in, where is the drama? This is a show. This is an entertainment product. That is what the college football playoff is. It is a reality show. You are removing the drama to just throw a bunch of teams in, most of which are going to get knocked out because they weren't competitive enough to be there. And the same thing applies for the 16 team. As much as for competitive reasons, it would have been better if Texas, Vanderbilt, and Notre Dame all got in. The more that I think about it now, the more that I would much rather it stay at 12, and we have the suspense that was built leading up to the final reveal.
You don't have 4 teams that can win a natty. You don't. And you can sit here and tell me, well, Miami was the 10th seed. Do you not have top 12 teams? I mean, I think that it is inevitable that we're going to 16, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Sankey wants to get as many teams in as he can. So does Petiti. And we haven't had this discussion yet because we've had other things that you want to discuss, so we're discussing them. The SEC is down. From the top, meaning the top teams, it is down. It's not down in reference to the entire league. It just isn't. So as an example, you had Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State. Nobody can trounce that. Problem is that one of the Big Ten teams just got literally physically manhandled by Miami. A team that A&M beat, by the way. I mean, a team that Miami beat in A&M, by the way, but much less than what Ohio State was able to do. So I get it from a top team perspective. He's trying to get as many teams in, 16 being that. Here's my thing with this. They're going to keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him and pushing him until he keeps expanding. If Greg Sankey agrees to a 16-team playoff that results after 3 years going to 24, not only should he resign, he should quit, and he should have – I'm going to leave that alone. I'm trying to make a joke with that. I was going to say he should be imprisoned as a joke, but I fully think he should. I think, though, in saying that, I think that Big Ten teams need to call for Tony Petiti to be fired. You need to do it. There's not 24 teams that can win a natty. There's not. There just isn't. What are you expanding this for? What are you trying to do playing games for? Because you want more money. This all revolves around money. Here's another truth. You know what? If Joe and I were greedy, we would come out here and say, yes, please expand it because it makes our season longer. We have more content to discuss and we make more money. So you know what? Sure, expand it. But we're the ones sitting here telling you why. No one's asking for it. The only thing that we're asking is that Texas and Vandy get in, or if you want to go BYU, I don't really give a shit. They're not winning it anyway. If you want to do that, fine. What we're all saying is let the just best teams play, go to 12, go to 16. To go to 24 is outright idiotic. It's outright idiotic. And I got to be real with you. I will go and say this every day until he resigns. If Greg Sankey accepts this deal, he should no longer be the SEC commissioner. Tony Petiti should be fired. He should be fired. Joe, they wanted automatic qualifiers. You know why he wanted automatic qualifiers? Why did he want it? How many teams in the Big Ten got in the playoff? Three. Three. Why did he want 4? Was there 4 that could have made it? Well, is there 4 teams that should have made it? Historically, that's not going to happen for them. So we talk about the Big Ten being up on the top. You're not wrong. There's no wrong in that. As a league, though, we saw it play out on the field too. We saw it. You have the top teams. No one can ignore that. No one can ignore that. But you're talking about bowl games as an identifier now when all of you try to sit here and tell me that bowl games don't matter anymore. When you have players opting out. So does it matter or not matter? You can't, like I saw Joel Klatt saying, oh, well, the bowl games show that the Big Ten dominated during bowl season. My brother in Christ, how many people opted out? So they matter when it fits your narrative. If you're going to talk about the playoff, there's no denying that. None whatsoever. If you're going to say, but it's only Indiana and it's only Miami that sits in here. And because the SEC doesn't have a team in there, that, oh, the SEC is massively down. They just had a team in the Final Four. They lost to what might be the best team in the country. What if Miami wins this thing? What if Miami wins this thing? Now what? Is the Big Ten down now? Is the ACC the best conference? We don't do it like that. So I also sit here and just say, Joe, I think from a collective, Vanderbilt's up. Vanderbilt. So when you're talking about the Big Ten and you're looking at Rutgers, Vandy is doing what Rutgers has not. And I know that's your state school, but I'm just saying, you get what I'm saying there.
Sure.
It's different. So I also look at this and just say, if they're going to expand this playoffs, they all need to be fired. I'm tired of this. I'm going to start calling for their heads.
I am at this point. I agree with that part of it, that the expansion doesn't need to happen.
No,
it doesn't. How much more valuable is it really to add all of those games to the mix? The product that you're trying to produce, you need to focus more on improving the current version of the product before you decide to make this thing even bigger.
Bingo.
At the very least, 16 teams has to be the ultimate cap. We can't do 24 teams. This is not a sport where 24 teams are capable of going on runs.
No,
it's not. It's absolutely not.
By the way, with all due respect, I get Indiana and the recruiting part of this. You do remember who the Final Four was, right?
What do you mean?
Meaning the teams that are there, Miami's a team that recruited better than all of them.
Wait, what are you saying? I'm confused.
Meaning that everyone looks at Miami and says, well, they were 10-2 and they lost. And, they found their way into a playoff. Well, if they win, and Ohio State won last year, cool. The most talented teams on the lines of scrimmage won. That's all that I'm hearing. It has nothing to do with that because of the expanded playoff, they won. You can say that, well, we didn't find out who the better team was in all of this. I get that argument. At the same time, in the regular season, there's no real consequences. And you know what you do? Here's what you do, what we haven't touched on. You give no sense of urgency in the regular season. Zero. None. Joe, I could be 9-3 and be in the playoff as Texas.
Well, if you're a 24 team, you can be 8-4 and you could get in the playoff. You can lose to Florida as many times as you want. To the point you just made about Miami, though, for what you were just saying, that is, I think, what is misunderstood with this is that a 12 team increased the chances for a team that starts poorly to get back into the mix that had a really good roster to then get hot and go on a run at the end of the season. The 16 team practically guarantees the ultimate cap of teams that fit that criteria. All the teams that are on the back end of that top 16, almost none of them are equipped to go on a run. Maybe you can make the argument for like Michigan, but that was a team with a true freshman quarterback. Yeah, they couldn't have. 16 teams is the ultimate stoppage point for, okay, these couple teams could, at the very back end, could theoretically, if they got hot, could end up reaching the Final Four or reaching the national championship.
No one
in the top 24 can do that. Nobody in the top 24.
Can we get a playoff without expanded for a 5-year run and just see how it goes?
So that was my thought with this is why are we constantly rushing to the next thing? We barely had the 4 team. Like, why can't we just see how this turns out? If after 10 years, that is what the threshold should be. After 10 years, we see this and we go, yeah, this is great. Or this isn't as good as it could be. We could be making more money or whatever. That is when the next expansion should be. Not right now.
I think that if you're a Big Ten person, you need to be calling for Tony Batiti to be fired.
I can't imagine that anybody supports this in the Big Ten. I can't imagine it.
No, you don't remember that they made CBS. The CBS media are pushing the play-in game. Remember, you had national big media pushing in play-in games, which is a 2014 playoff. I mean, they're getting paid, so they're pushing it. I got to be real with you, man. This is a joke. This is a joke. And let's be blunt about your Steelers comment from earlier. Joe, it was a one-score game with 7 minutes left. The wheels completely fell off. That was a fine game. It was an okay game until the end. There's 32 teams in the NFL. You want to put 24 of them in there? I mean, the truth of the matter is they got to get rid of the automatic qualifier. They're going to keep pointing to James Madison and Tulane. They're going to
the other problem too with the automatic qualifier is not only did those teams that weren't competitive enough to be in the playoff field get in, the automatic qualifier created this ugly, stupid circumstance with Miami. Miami would have just gotten in, and we wouldn't have had 2 G5 teams, and Notre Dame would have gotten in, and we would have had a great playoff field.
Could you
have to go?
Could you have imagined Notre Dame having to going into somewhere? Could you have like
ratings? If we got a Notre Dame Alabama game, the ratings for that would have been it probably would have been one of the most watched
we would have
games.
We would have made $1,200 on one video.
Probably.
Yeah, you know what? Expand that motherfucker. You know what? We're gonna get greedy.
No, just fix the damn current version. Get rid of the stupid AQs.
Well, I keep hearing guys, and I know that we're coming up on time here, so I'm sorry, but you got to get rid of them. We need a commissioner. We got to
keep saying that, but it's not coming anytime soon.
Well, I'm going to say this. Sankey has the power right now because he does not have to accept this deal. If he accepts it, I'm going to go to Birmingham and sit outside the SEC office, and we're going to document it.
Please do. I'll come with you. I'll fly in.
Okay, let's do that. Any thoughts on Justice Haynes? Do you want to get to that really quickly?
No, why don't we can save that for another day because we've got a minute until you have to hop off. Good player.
I got 5 minutes, or I got 7 minutes if you want to go.
No, we can punt on. I don't think it's that press. We've got a big Georgia Tech.
We had only one super chat.
We already got to it.
Any thoughts? Because people get mad when we talk about LSU on the show. Any thoughts of Hassan Longstreet going to LSU?
Yeah, I told you we couldn't talk about it because we didn't want to beat our listeners over the head with LSU talk for that reason. But I think that it is huge
because of the big news that's happening.
Yeah, they've been in the news a lot. I think that Longstreet's a great player, and I think that it's like a great athlete as well. It's massive that you've got your future figured out as well as the present.
Don't stop sending us super chats right now. No one send us another super chat. Candid sends a $5 super chat. Says, I like 16 because it removes a bye week where 7 of 8 top 4 seeds lost.
That's actually not a bad point. That's actually the one good supporting argument for the 16 team. I'm not as opposed to. The 24 team is a gigantic mess, but that's actually a very interesting point. And I wonder if that gets brought up in the discussion why they want to do.
Well, it already did. It already did. Thank you, brought it up. But here's the problem with that. The only problem with that is one of those games is going to be a G5 team. That's the problem in that. The number 1 seed, Indiana, with all due respect, Indiana's not losing to Tulane.
That would have been a funny game to watch, though.
No, it would not have. No, it would not.
I would have had fun. I would have had fun.
I would have had no fun at all. I mean, Ole Miss put it on that candy ass. What do you think Indiana would have done?
Would have been 100-0.
Could you have imagined 2019 LSU playing Tulane?
200-0.
Probably. By the way, I kind of went viral the other day because it was the anniversary. I'd rest my case. Y'all stop with this shit. They average beating top 4 teams by 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's been so arbitrary that people have tried to claim that they're like,
so awful.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
There's one team in the last 45 or 51 years that has beaten the preseason top 4. Do you want to know who that is?
It's LSU.
Okay, shut the fuck up, everybody. See y'all on Sunday, and then we got a game on Monday. We'll see y'all then. Peace.